Our next guest is Tri-Valley author Linda Drattell and her interpreter Becky, who recently published a children's book that draws inspiration from her own experience with hearing loss. She's here with her interpreter. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having me and having my interpreter.
It's a pleasure. Can you tell us a little about the children's book and why you wanted to write it?
Sure. Eve Little, my co-author, was my Spanish tutor because I decided, even though I lost my hearing, that I wanted to learn other languages. So she decided one day that it was time for me to write my own children's book because we were reading children's books. I can't hear, so we were reading books in order for me to learn language and vocabulary. So we started discussing what I would write about, and then she joined me in the writing, and we got very excited about this dragon, and we forgot the fact that it was supposed to be a Spanish lesson to learn about sharp nails and scales and long tail and breathing fire, and we focused more on the fact that this dragon felt different, and because he felt different from everyone else, he self-isolated, and he was very lonely until he met a boy who accepted him exactly for who he is. So I said to Eve, I said, you know what, hold on a second, this dragon is me. You know, with my hearing loss, I immediately felt like I didn't want to go to parties and I was self-isolating. Eve said, no, that dragon is me because she's half Mexican, so she feels like she doesn't fit in either world. And then she teaches at a local college, and her student, Mark Vicente, is an illustrator. So we got him to illustrate for us, and he said, that dragon is me, because he is the son of Filipino parents, and they were immigrants, and he feels different. And that was when we realized, forget the Spanish, we're focusing on the story, the character arc, about a dragon for any reason. Anyone who feels different can identify with this dragon. And he goes from very low self-esteem and afraid to show his colors, so to speak, to being proud of the skills he possesses because this boy recognizes them. So that's basically the story.
Oh, I love it so much. I was actually a big fan of dragons as a child. I had a dragon collection. So this is so fun and definitely something that every child needs to learn about themselves. It's okay to be different. Now, I understand you did become deaf in your 30s. How did that affect you both personally and as a writer?
Well, it affected me personally in that I could see people did not feel comfortable around me. And then until I learned to feel comfortable about myself. But at the beginning, you know, that change from someone who's hearing and I'm your friend to someone who's suddenly deaf, a lot of people couldn't handle that. Also, I suddenly realized how communication access was so unavailable, not just to people who are deaf, but to a lot of different populations. And I became one of the primary plaintiffs for suing for movie captioning, which you can now get in any theater. You know, unless it's a small independent theater, but like Cinemark, Regal, any of them. We we sued for closed captioning. They were offering open captioning during the week, but that wasn't really good for people who want to go see a movie, not Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So we got that. We got an agreement. We settled. It was no problem. So I was very excited about that. And I just learned a lot about self-advocating, coping skills. I became the president of the Association of Like Deaf and Adults, the national organization, and I serve on the boards of the California Communication Access Foundation now and Ability Central Philanthropy, and for the California Writers Club Tri-Valley branch.
Wow.
So I'm constantly advocating.
That's wonderful. Thank you for all you've done to bring access to the deaf community. I understand you have another book coming out in August that's about poetry. You're so talented. Tell us about what inspired this collection of poems.
Well, some of the poems were written prior to COVID, but a lot of them were written during COVID. And I focused on the main themes of being afraid to survive. I wrote a poem about what would happen if my husband died first, and I can't even imagine it. And so I wrote a poem about that, and thankfully he's still with me. And then I wrote poems about struggling to survive and struggling to maintain your independence. So I have a poem about a tree struggling against torrential waters. And I have a poem about the hunt, which is between wolves and bison. And each does what they have to do in order to survive. And then the guilt of surviving. That was my other thing. My husband and I were in Nice, France, on Bastille Day, July 14th, 2016. And that was when there was a major terror attack. A truck came and mowed down over 80 people, and over 400 were injured. I was slightly injured, but I was fine. But it was a terrifying experience. And what was worse after was, how do you cope with that? How do you cope with surviving something like that and feeling guilty about it? And we saw someone who specializes in post-traumatic stress disorder, which I highly recommend. If there is any occasion for you to suffer, to speak to someone. And he was just amazing. He basically was emphasizing what in Buddhism amounts to suffering from the second arrow. Wow. The first arrow is the pain itself, and the second arrow is revisiting it and thinking about it over and over again, and how you should not do that. And there's nothing you could have done differently, and you have to move forward.
Wow, very, very powerful. I'm very interested in reading your works. How do I and our fellow viewers find your works to purchase?
Oh, wow. The Who Wants to Be Friends with the Dragon is available now through, and I really emphasize buying local, so Town Center Books here in Pleasanton on Main Street. But you can also order it through Amazon and through the publisher, Dorrance Publishing Company.
Excellent.
And then the poetry book, you can order now. It's not in print yet, which is why I just have the side. But it will be shipped in August. And then that will be available. You can order now through Finishing Line Press, or you can order later through Amazon and through Town Center Books.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Becky.